Hello and welcome to the easternKicks podcast, a regular magazine program about East Asian film led by me, Andrew Heskins, founder and grandmaster of easternKicks.com, and James Mudge, our leading writer.
Hey-o.
Each episode we'll be taking a look at the latest films, news and festivals, often chatting to filmmakers and stars along the way.
The producers just handed me this thing, this Queen of Black Magic. At first, I sort of didn't recognize the film, and then I rewatched it. Then I remembered that when I was a little, actually, I saw some of the clip, actually the flying hats and stuff. Then I remember, okay, this is the film that actually stuck in my brain for quite a long time and gave me goosebumps when I was a little. So at that moment, okay, man, I think I gotta do this film.
Kenapa sih kita nggak jadi ke Bali? Sekarang malah ke tempat yang di map saja nggak ada.
Ton. Ini Pak Pandi. Dia yang ngegedein kita di panti asuhan ini.
Kalian udah lama di sini?
Wow, asik ya tempatnya.
Hello and welcome to our latest show. This time we're focusing on Indonesian folk horror with a look at Kimo Stamboel's latest, The Queen of Black Magic. Available now to stream exclusively on Shudder, as well as looking at some other films that are literally reviving the Indonesian horror scene of the 70s and the 80s. Later on, James chats at length to Kimo about the film and directing horror. But let's get on to that important question. What are you drinking this episode, James?
I have a nice bottle of Shiraz, modestly priced, I admit, but which has been chilling in the fridge for the afternoon because I've started having my red wine nice and cold.
Well, you know, that's not sunny now. So.
Well, it's a sunny day today. I mean, not that it does us any good in lockdown, but the sun's out there mocking us and everything.
Yeah.
What are you on, and what are you drinking?
So I'm on the dregs of my Howling Hops order. One I've been holding back on, which is Rooftops, New England Triple IPA.
Very nice.
Percentage of 9.5.
Very nice indeed. That doesn't sound like dregs. It sounds like a very fine drink, I have to say.
It is.
Dulu di sini ada seorang pengurus panti namanya Ibu Mira. Terus Ibu Mira dikurung di kamar ini. Ibu Mira gedor-gedor pintu ini. Gedor pintu pakai kepala sampai kepala pecah.
So on to The Queen of Black Magic, which is a remake of a 1981 film, also called The Queen of Black Magic.
Which sometimes seems to be listed as anything from 78, 79, 80, 81, 82 in different places.
But, I mean, without going too far down that rabbit hole, I think a lot of the films of that era do seem to be listed under several dates.
Definitely.
Of the sort of the Indonesia. But we'll come back to that later on in the episode.
Yeah.
So, give me a bit of a slice of the plot of The Queen of Black Magic before we start chatting about
sure.
it.
By way of a very brief summary for it, it's quite an old school plot. So, it's a guy who goes with his wife and children back to the orphanage where he was grown up, which is in some remote rural area of Indonesia. A couple of other childhood friends also from the orphanage are there because basically the old fella who'd run the orphanage is on his last legs, so they've come to pay their final respects. Needless to say, very quickly, turns out there's something sinister afoot, things lurking in the shadows, past curses coming back and everything, and it all goes south very, very quickly and unpleasantly. And, it's I'm not going to say too much about exactly what the context of The Queen of Black Magic is in this, but safe to say it's like the sins of the past coming back, and there is a lot of black magic and nastiness in there. So it's a proper, authentic, old school black magic plot for the film, you could say.
Yeah, and directed by Kimo, written by Joko Anwar, who's directed his own remake of Satan's Slave.
But one of the things I really liked about it is the fact that it is as kind of a remake or reimagining, not just specifically of the original Queen of Black Magic, but just of that kind of genre which was popular in Indonesia then in like the 70s and 80s. It's a very nice way of kind of updating it while still sticking to kind of the old school elements of it. And I was, as a big fan of any sort of Gong Tao, black magic type stuff like that myself, and also maybe one day a practitioner of the dark arts. You never know. You never
just
know.
from all those Shaw Brothers films.
Exactly. Not that anything that's
Proto Capri.
Exactly. None of the stuff which is in my head is probably anything relating to real black magic, but it really comes across as being old school in that respect. It's got a lot of the Gong Tao stuff. It's got a lot of the black magic stuff in there, which I think is. I guess for like a lot of Western horror fans and stuff, it's maybe not stuff they will have seen before. So you still have what could be like a fairly traditional horror plot, going back to the old childhood place. These have said like past secrets and, past wrongs and everything like that coming back to haunt folk. But this kind of black magic element and stuff is very cool, and it's very nicely handled in the film. I mean, it's quite it's not a slow burn as such, but it kind of builds up.
I think it does have a pace, and I think that's something that I'd probably lay a bit at the writing.
Yes, yeah.
In terms of Joko in his other films does seem to do that a lot as well. It really kind of, it doesn't go straight in with the horror at all. It just
that's true. Yeah.
Really kind of lets it build, which I think works very well, because you get more of a sense of the characters and care about them a bit more, rather than just. With some films, and again, we'll probably be coming back to that a bit later on in this episode, but where some films just seem to throw their cast against the wall, quite literally, without giving them a chance to breathe. This one really, really kind of lets the atmosphere build, quite literally gets under your skin in several different ways.
Very true. But no, absolutely, and it's a mixture of both the characters and kind of like the central mystery. It does put effort into the plot and into the mystery of it. I mean, you're probably most people will probably figure out kind of what's going on, way before the end and everything. But it hangs together pretty well in that respect. It's it goes off the rails in a great way with the horror and the gore and everything later. But it is still, essentially quite a plot-driven film, kind of in that respect. And it does pay a lot of, as you say, like there's a lot of effort into the building the atmosphere and everything like that, and it sort of goes from those sort of more, I don't know, you could say like rural gothic kind of frights and stuff like that sort of atmosphere in the earlier stages, everything like that, and then suddenly into like full blown hellish gore horror for the last half an hour in proper great way.
There's nods to lots of other films, there's definitely a nod to Ringu in there. And
definitely.
Which I think is actually quite nicely done.
Absolutely. I think it's whether it's like the other Asian influences or the kind of Western influences and stuff in there. I mean, that's something which comes up in the interview with Kimo, talking about Evil Dead, Samurai, and stuff like that. So it's a great mixture of kind of like the sort of proper like Indonesian folklore, this kind of like black magic style, old school Shaw Brothers style, but also I'm not going to say it's like a Western style, but in terms of on the technical side of the film, definitely there's nods towards that, and it all comes together very well. And I think one of the reasons I think this is one of the better of the sort of Indonesian folk horrors we'll talk about, more of the others. I think the pacing for this one is good. It's very well considered the way it actually. When it's slower in parts, it's slower in parts because things are actually happening that are building towards. When it explodes into this kind of inferno towards the end and everything, which I think works a lot better in this film than it does in some of the others,
I mean, should we talk a bit about the original?
I think we should. I think there's a very, very interesting comparison to be made between the two.
Because the original is a very different. I mean, this is a very much a reimagining, and it's a very, very different, a very different film.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, without giving too much away about the plot, but it is a woman who basically is demonized as a witch, even though she isn't. Gets thrown off a cliff and then becomes one. Learns the arts of black magic to get revenge.
She very handily falls into a tree at the bottom of the cliff and gets rescued by a mad old black magic hermit who teaches her the ways and stuff. So it's a completely different plot. So it is a reimagining, but there's no links between the two films and stuff. But it's certainly not a remake. It's not a sequel or anything. It is very much closer to that kind of old school Shaw Brothers kind of plot and everything, because it has that kind of revenge narrative, and she gradually sort of comes to sort of see the cost of what she's doing. You're using these new black magic skills to kind of gradually take down the guy who she'd mistakenly fallen in love with, who turned out to be a complete heel, and also like the other villagers who were kind of involved in it. But there is like we can't give it like too much dramatic weight or any kind of feminist text or anything. But she does kind of like see the effects on her and everything like that, and the kind of the cost of her revenge and stuff. So it's a very, very different plot in that respect. Very, very different feel to the film. And the Gong Tai stuff, it's got some fantastic stuff in there. It's got the all time favorite, like the flying head Gong Tai.
Hentikan musiknya.
Someone's head comes off and flies around biting folk. It's got some bursting veins, some scanner stuff. It's got insects.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I guess depending a bit on when the year actually was, but it's actually kind of listed as the same year as Scanners. So they turned around with the kind of the vein, probably the classic, head explosions. Which the effects are really kind of old school, really actually very well done. It's very, very well filmed. And I think you can see the Western influence, and you can see very much the Shaw Brothers influence, and how it's filmed on there.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's very absolutely.
It doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it looks. Actually, it looks very good, very stylized. There's a great scene where because of the obviously with Indonesia, particularly at that point, and still is a very Muslim country. There's an implied nudity here, but you don't actually see it. And there's a lovely bit where this is part of her learning black magic seems to be somersaulting on a trampoline against the moon, which is in the nude. But it looks great. It looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's good. Very nice sort of set design and color and stuff in there. So even like the sort of black magic layer, wherever the guy hangs out and stuff, is very. It is very sort of Human Lanterns sort of style from the Shaw Brothers style, which is very cool. But yeah, as you say, like it's markedly less sleazy or anything like that at all in there. Which on the plus side, you don't get that same sort of abuse of the female character, which you do in quite a few of these other films and stuff. Everything like that. I mean, she has her unfortunate experience of being chucked off a cliff, but
yes, and she is. I mean, without giving too much of the plot away, the black magic practitioner has his own agenda as well for wanting her to do some of these things. So she's still basically gaslighted.
Black magic gaslighting. I guess part of that as well, the actress Susanna, who was a very big sort of Indonesian horror icon, kind of at that time, and who was apparently very well known for sort of witchy ways in real life and stuff, and kind of lived in that kind of character a bit and everything. I'm not sure how much truth there is to that. I'm just going what the internet's told me, but she's really good. She is really good in the film though. She gives the character. She makes it's not even like just a full like revenge narrative, like watching her and enjoying her taking down people. It is more a lot more sympathetic.
She's conflicted. Yeah.
So it's putting the two films side by side and everything completely. You can see sort of thematic links in there and everything like that, but
it's kind of a bit of an interesting, considering that Joko Anwar wrote the remake as well as doing his own version of Satan's Slaves. His take on that is on Satan's Slave is much closer to the original, even though it is actually intended as a prequel. Whereas it's very much the ideas here are really quite reinterpreted into something quite different.
Oh, absolutely, and I think kind of what kind of links them, I guess, is still like with the new film, with Kimo's film, you're still having something which was kind of like putting the whether it's like the mother or the children, everything like that, in a sort of position of threat and stuff. So it still has a sort of similar attack on kind of the family unit and the kind of moral message, I guess, both films, everything. Though I think in the 2019 film that's even more shocking. One of the things which did surprise me a lot about the new Queen of Black Magic is seeing like kids in peril and everything like that, which we don't really see so much in Western. I mean, not proper. This is like proper peril and everything. So I think that was quite surprising and everything. So I think it's kind of Joko as the scriptwriter has kind of taken some aspects of the first films. It does. I don't like saying moral message as in a negative way and everything like that, because this is a film where it genuinely is sympathetic towards its protagonist and stuff. She's not some sort of cool wisecracking anti-heroine who's making jokes and taking people down. So I think both films still carry a kind of fairly strong moral message to them, but in a sort of in a well-handled, sort of not heavy-handed, preachy kind of way and stuff. So I guess that kind of links them. But yeah, they are very, very separate in different films, which is great because you could comfortably enjoy them in a double bill without without having to think you were watching the same film twice. And since they're both on Shudder, you can do that from the safety of your own couch these days. And a bunch of drinks, of course.
So let's listen to Kimo chatting to James about the film and much more.
Gue juga ngeliat bis, isinya anak panti. Semuanya mati.
Ini kejadian lagi, Nev.
Dia nyerang kita dengan ilmu hitam.
Buka! Buka!
What the hell is going on here?
So yeah, just to start with the Queen of Black Magic, which so it's 2019 production, but it's only just come onto Shudder.
2020, 2019 production. Actually, it's it's the beginning of 2019.
Okay, cool.
James.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's just come onto Shudder internationally as well. So I just saw it recently myself, which is very, very cool film. Enjoyed that very much. And
thank you very much, James. Appreciate it.
But it's interesting. It's based on a 1981 film of the same name, which is also on Shudder, which I watched.
Correct.
Recently.
Yeah.
But is it? Would you call it like a remake or reimagining, or is there any kind of link between them?
Reimagining, I think. Yeah, I think when me and Joko sat down with the producer, we thought that I think we don't want to disturb the old classics in a way, but I think it's good to reimagine it and took some of the elements in the original film, and hopefully we can make it, at least relatable towards the new generation of that audience. I think it's more to that, and I think mainly Joko, the writer, feels that we cannot disturb the old classic that already been being a cult film by itself. So and for that we are very respect so much in terms of that, and we told the producers, guys, we don't want to disturb the old classics, and why don't we just reimagine it and repackage it, but have those elements in it. So yeah, that's what we are doing actually, James.
Yeah, because there is quite one of the things I think was different between your version and the original was, in the original 1981 there's much more of a focus on the female, the Queen of Black Magic. She's kind of like a character in it from the start, whereas in your film it still sticks to similar themes, the sort of tragedy of the story is a bit differently focused in the new version, I think. Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. Obviously it's got a lot more sort of modern gore effects in there, and so just wondering how you updated that side of the film, because the original film has still got some really cool scenes in there and everything, but
definitely, man.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of like the old Black Magic films, like proper Gong Tao films, and so seeing like the flying head, I love that, man. That's fantastic.
yeah. Of course, man.
But in your film, like especially the last, it's not a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen, but like the last half hour or so where things start going crazier and crazier, like it's quite a different approach to the sort of the gore, everything, how the scares, everything, would you say?
Yeah, I think that's mainly the idea comes from again, Joko wrote the script but we discussed it about the treatment and all, and I think the idea of the producer's idea also want to use a little bit more realistic in a way, because if we done it with the practical stuff, it could feel a little bit classic in a way, right?
Yeah.
Because nowadays it's combination of both between practical and also digital effects. But the treatment itself, we wanted to be more terrorizing or more into the into the scene of if you remember the last part, we sort of depict the hellish environment where the queen set up this whole thing, and that's sort of new in a way, because the original one, I don't remember that she sort of set up this another world or something like that. I don't recall that, but that's something new that we want to push it actually, because me and Joko also have those influences back in the days. If you have in your area some sort of a comic strip that always discuss about some hell and stuff, when you are kids, there's a lot of stuff floating around with these comics, right? And usually to scare kids and told the story about hell, something like that, and we sort of have this cool idea, how do we make that into a reality and try to bring it in the screen. So yeah, Joko wrote that some kind of cool stuff, and I try to reimagine it and get the reference from the comics as well. I forgot the comics, what is the name of the comics, but I think it's I think you guys also have a different version of it, because I think that's a classic, how people just to tell what is hell sort of stuff. So yeah, it's sort of a cheap comic, it's only like 2 pages and stuff. So yeah, we try to push that concept and the goriness as well, because the old classic, I feel that the goriness is out there, and it become classic in a way, and it's sort of tough actually to balance it out, because I think back then the filmmakers doesn't have any boundaries of but right now we do have some boundaries in a way, because we have already established the censorship department in the state. The state censorship department, and also the producers also already have a strategy to not push it into a 21 plus movie, and then we want it to be like 17 plus film. And I think in that way, we have to combine, we have to be smart in terms of how we presented the goriness. And for me and Joko as well, we want to push it, but there is always some boundaries that we have to do, right? So yeah, man.
Oh, that's true. But I think as well,
answer.
I think with the original towards the end and stuff, where you have some of the old like black magic, like the flying head and everything like that. I mean, that's the kind of stuff which is probably harder to include from some modern audience as well. It kind of it works really well in the original film. But what you guys do in this film with the last half an hour is more, they still have their like revenge narrative, but it's more intense, everything. And I think one of the things was, I think one thing which would probably shock quite a lot of Western viewers is seeing, the involvement of like the younger children and stuff in it as well, the younger people. You're sort of caught up in it as well. That's something which is quite rare to see in this kind of film as well.
Okay, that's cool though.
It is, but
even here, I think the same way. I think the same thing happens here. I think, James, because we are pretty lucky to have this in the theater, because sometimes back in the early 2000s, there's a little bit of a movement that because it's the censorship board, it's still assembling at that time.
Yeah.
So there is uncertainty of what we can show and what we cannot show.
Yeah.
But nowadays they have already established a little bit of the rules and do's and don'ts. But we are lucky that we can actually, an issue of pedophilia and an issue of rape and issue of towards children, we can actually open and to discuss a bit. That's pretty lucky of us that we can go for it. So but people here, there's not a lot of film that actually shows that, and I think we are one of the first, and because we are in a sort of like in a fantasy type of thing, I think that also let us do this stuff, because I think if this is a very serious film, then it's become a different thing.
That's true. Yeah.
Because of this involve of black magic and stuff, and it's a horror genre, then it's sort of okay in a way. But I think we have the same excitement that oh my God, that's involve kids, and then also Joko wrote it because actually the idea of having a family is already it's brilliant there. I mean, because people can relate to, because Indonesian and our country is pretty much close with families and stuff.
That's cool. I think that's one of the things which I really like watching the two films. I saw them very close together because of when they arrived on Shudder. Everything I saw your one first, and then the original one. Everything. So.
Okay. All right.
But why did you guys choose this film in particular? Because I guess there's quite a lot of other ones from the period which are around. So I know Joko stayed in slaves already and stuff. So.
Yes, I mean, the thing is, it comes to, I don't know. The producers just handed out like, okay, Kimo, do you want to do this remake? Because before they approached me for a different project, it's not a remake, it's some sort of an original story, and I told them that, do you have any title that we can do remakes? Because Joko actually did the Satan's Slave, and it's pretty successful, and I want to do the same thing because I think because Rapi Film is established since the 70s, so they have a lot of titles that we can remake, and the producers just handed me this thing, this Queen of Black Magic. At first, I sort of didn't recognize the film, and then I rewatch it, then I remember that when I was a little, actually I saw some of the clip, actually the flying hats and stuff. Then I remember, okay, this is the film that actually stuck in my brain for quite a long time and gives me goosebumps when I was a little. So at that moment, okay, man, I think I gotta do this film, and pretty exciting as well. And producers also announced that, okay, Joko gonna write. Oh man, that's perfect. I mean, me and Joko, we already been friends such a long time, but we never get the chance to collaborate collaborate together, and I think this is the perfect time. I mean, so yeah, man. I mean, just like that. I mean, it's like, okay, because I think the producers also saw our reels, like me and Timo's reel about the the gory stuff like macabre and killers, and we did some headshots, so that have the edge of violence in it. And I think maybe the producers say, okay, I think you sort of perfectly fits for the Queen of Black Magic. Oh, okay. Awesome, man. But yeah, I mean, it was really fun making it, man. I mean, I really enjoyed every minute of it. So yeah.
But, yeah. So as well as like the influences from the early films as well. But have you guys got other influences, like maybe a little bit of Evil Dead in there, something like that? Which I think I saw.
Oh yeah, definitely
as well.
Man. Yeah, because Sam Raimi. I mean, me and Timo actually love Sam Raimi a lot. I mean, I don't know, maybe not just Sam, but a lot of U.S. film that that we watch it a lot and somehow unconsciously get a reference in it, so definitely Evil Dead, one of them. I want to have those tone that bring up the classics in the project. So yeah.
But I mean, I'm interested to know a bit more about sort of Rappy Films or everything. So they were making like exploitation films in the 70s and 80s mainly?
Yeah. 70s, 80s, and 90s, man. Yeah.
I could say
they've been active. Yeah, they've been active for such a long time until today, though. Yeah.
Is there any other key films, ones that I might be able to track down or watch or anything from the studio, or similar sort of black magic and?
I think there's several, bro. But let me check, man. I've not have a lot of in mind, but I think they. Yeah, man. I mean, there's something. Oh, there are several, but I don't have the list right now.
That's okay,
James. So
no worries, man.
I think there's in Wikipedia. So there's a lot of. Okay, hold on. I think this is in Indonesia. No, actually, it's in the. Okay, hold on. There's a lot of drama. They made everything, man. I mean, they made a lot of stuff. But one of the 1981 called Sundel Bolong. There's also, that's a classic Indonesian horror, very classic one, because some of us try to remake that, but never, Oh, there is actually one in Netflix. I don't know, it's a global one, but it's actually in Netflix. But it's another company.
Okay.
But it's based on Rappy's movie called Sundel Bolong. Yeah, and there's a lot of weird stuff, man. but it's very interesting. So if you can try to get it in Mando Macabre titles, I think it should be there, bro.
They do. There's a film I remember called like Mystics of Bali. Do you know? Did they do that one?
Oh yeah.
I remember that from
it's
when
about,
I was.
it's about Leak,
yes.
Folklore, folklore, Indonesian folklore,
That was a really.
It's also crazy, man. That's, yeah, definitely, man. That's really, really cool.
Because I was watching. Yeah. I guess in the West we see a lot more of the the Shaw Brothers films from that time, which had like black magic, Boxer's Omen, everything like that, spiritual boxer, everything, and then some of the Hong Kong like Category 3 films from like the 90s, like Eternal Evil of Asia and everything, which were still, updates of those Shaw Brothers ones, everything. But I would just love to see see some more of these Indonesian ones from the early 80s, because they look crazy as well. So
I think they're gonna be available soon in Netflix, maybe, because I spoke to the Rappy Film guys, man, you got a lot of titles, but the thing is, in our side is their archive of the masters is not so great.
Okay, yeah.
So maybe they have the reels, but they have to clean it. They have to digitize and do all that, and that costs a lot. And I don't know they're gonna do it or not. But they have a lot of titles.
That's always
it's very interesting to watch.
Yeah, definitely, especially for. Both for like horror fans and also just in general for film history. But I guess when they make these films, they make them quite low budget. They don't think about someone wants to watch this in 40 years later. Someone wants to.
No, definitely.
They're just making
definitely
with a horror film. So
they just make it for for continuing the day, bro.
Exactly. But that's one of the great things about whether it's Netflix or Shudder and everything, is now for films that are available, like for certainly in the West, like making these films more available, like and I think that's one of the that's a great thing about Queen of Black Magic as well. It's kind of like a gateway film, maybe, or an introduction to sort of Indonesian horror. Or some, because a lot of people who watch like Shudder maybe aren't the same audience who watch like Asian horror or Indonesian horror. I think it's a really good introduction. One of the things that I'm interested in is like a lot of these recent Indonesian horror films, like your films, like Joko's Impetigore. It seems a lot more based around sort of like folklore or black magic or quite local or cultural things, but they're still becoming very popular with national audiences. So I just wonder why maybe you think that is, like why they're still seem to be so popular around the world at the moment.
Oh, I think it's for ourselves, for local audience. They can easily relate towards what's going on. I mean the real culture, because not a lot of film action. I mean, there's a lot of film that try to do some folklore, but and it still works. I mean, even the bad ones is actually still works here, because I don't know, man. I mean, they just for our local audience, they just love it.
Yeah.
They just love the culture. They just love the because we are in the islands, right? And each states or each islands have a different culture, and one of the culture is being in the big screen nationally. They're sort of being proud of it in a way. So in our local audience, whatever it is that actually talk about some of our folklore, they're gonna be interested.
Yeah.
But for the world, I think it's sort of an introduction of the diversity that we have here in Indonesia. So because there's a lot of stories, there's a lot of folklore that needs to be broken down. Even I mean, there's so many of them, and so many things that interesting. And we try to get something that universally that people can understand.
Yeah.
And I think one of it is the black magic thing. Black magic is, there's so many in the world as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we try to give the audience a taste of our side of the black magic. So I think hopefully we can actually show the process in it, because the first, I mean, this version one, we don't see the process how the queen becoming the queen, right?
Yeah.
But the original ones is actually sort of trying to depict that in a certain way. She got a lot of training and stuff, and
that's right.
something like that, and the difficult part is to make that something that really in now, because there's a lot of dark movies now, and I think we need to be more authentic in a way, because the process itself is pretty much haven't been explored yet, but hopefully, man, if we got a chance to make it a sequel or prequel, or anything like that, we can actually shows, okay, this is how we do it, something like that. But I think why we choose the folklore is as simple as that. I mean, the locals still love it, and because they are pretty close towards the story, and maybe for the world this is such a, maybe it's an introduction again, even though they already know, but hopefully, because Shudder is new for us, right? It hasn't gone Indonesia yet. I mean, here we do have Netflix, we do have Disney Plus, we do have Amazon Prime, and we do have a lot of stuff, but not Shudder yet. But hopefully that we can get it. So because Indonesian, one of the popular genre in Indonesia is horror. So I think it's better to Shudder go straight in before somebody else grab the market.
I guess, I mean, that's one of the that's probably one of the only good things about like this lockdown and COVID, everything is with all people having to watch online more than cinemas, whether it's Netflix or Shudder, I'm seeing like a lot more diversity now, like a lot more interest and different kinds of horror films. People maybe not so scared of subtitles now, hopefully, because that's all. When you're putting when you're putting a horror film in the cinema in the UK, subtitles, that's a big problem. Automatically people think it's like an art just because it has subtitles. But by putting them out on Shudder, everything like on Netflix, everything, hopefully that'll get more people gradually into this kind of other kinds of horror film rather than just watching the same sort of Western Hollywood slasher horror all the time, everything. So that's my hope for this kind of thing as well. But
Okay.
but you get maybe
Hopefully, man.
other kinds of horror films being made in Indonesia, or mainly just sort of folklore type of horror? Do you have any sort of like slasher one or creature feature?
Not yet, but I mean, the Impetigore is sort of it's still a folklore. Yeah, it's still a folklore, but Timo's Devil May Timo's movie, The Devil May Take You. It's something.
Yeah, Devil.
It's something not a folklore. Yeah, but there is some of elements in it, but he made it very differently, and it's not an Indonesian folklore. It's sort of his sort of own ideas. Try to combine the European stuff into a witchery stuff into the Indonesian ones. So that's sort of a little bit different, but it contained that sort of element.
Yeah.
But not recently, or I think it still do have some folklore elements in it.
Yeah.
Because I think the producers trying to be safe and what's okay. And they're gonna do it, but hopefully, man. I mean, I wanna do some creature stuff, and hopefully, gradually we can start to enter a new sort of horror sets. I mean, maybe aliens or maybe creatures and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I think
our stuff like macabre is one of the non-folklore.
That's true.
Non-folklore horror, actually. Yeah.
I always like Macabre is a great film as well. But is that one you guys ever think about doing something out, explore? Because it seems, that was a really cool film, Macabre as well. And I think that's one.
Yeah, thank you, man.
I would love to see that getting picked, put out on Netflix or Shudder more, because I think it would be a cool film for more people to see. I think as well, Macabre, and I think
of course, yeah, I want to do something like that again, because I think we have just to find the right time and the right people to do a project that we can be a little bit more out there.
Yeah.
Right now, the ones that here in Indonesia that trends or safe, as the producers say is it's the genre horror with the folklore element in it. They are pretty excited if we tell that, from this area, there is a story that blah blah blah. Oh, okay, and then they started to get the hype of it, and it's a folklore actually. It's it's usually based on in one area, and this and that, and involve the people around there, and it's pretty ancient and stuff, But yeah, man, I really want to make other stuff, horror, like some sort of maybe like another macabre or a creature or even aliens and stuff. So yeah, definitely cool. That's worth of exploring. Yeah,
because I think Indonesian cinema is always one of the ones here in the West where people are always talking about. It's it's always
cool, man. Seriously?
It has if you compare to some other countries around Asia, I guess, which are going to be subtitled or anything like. Even if you compare it to say like Thai cinema or some other one, Indonesian cinema always seems to be getting talked about more. Maybe the last decade, for example. So I think there is
cool, man.
There's quite a lot of of interest in there from people and stuff. So it would be fantastic to see some. I mean, I love the folklore black magic. I really love that. It would be cool as well, to see other types of horror film, everything, because you've done different types of films yourself before, more like action, everything as well. So, but is horror where you'd like to work more, or like other genres like action, drama, more, anything else? Or?
Well, horror probably the most my comfort zone in making in making projects, James. But definitely I love the genre of action and thriller, and I don't know, maybe in the future if I get a chance to make other genre, definitely I want to do it. I mean, but it's still in that sort of line of genre, right? Action thriller and horror, and maybe a little bit of a drama. I don't know, maybe getting older, try to get another story that's pretty much dark drama and stuff, Sometimes, we got bored, sitting in the comfort zone, we have to explore a bit, Yeah.
Are you working on anything at the moment now? Or?
Right now, I am just finishing. Last month, I just finished a shoot another horror.
Oh, very cool.
Another horror. It's based on a book. It's not actually that one is not folklore because it's based on a book, a fictional book, and but it still have those elements of the how do you say a ghostly element in it, but it's not a folklore, so that I'm working on post, hopefully, because right now, James, our theater is not looking so good. So all the major studios here like sort of shifting in a way because there's so much demand on series. So maybe I don't know, maybe I try to go there because there's some offer to do some series with the with the genre element in it, and so maybe for that first. I don't know, hopefully if I get another shot with the feature film this year, because I don't think this year is a good time also, because the producers is like, okay, if you want to make it now, because there's a lot of unreleased film from last year that haven't been released, so they have so much content and they need to put it out there, and some of the maybe projects is projected with the theatrical release, and that's already the amount that they have to at one point say, okay, we got to stop producing feature films and shifting a bit towards maybe a series, dark series and stuff. So hopefully we can produce, I don't know, Shudder. Is Shudder have those horror series, or they just
I don't know if they
do feature film?
I'm not sure if they produce them in the same way in the same way Netflix produces series and stuff. They definitely have series on the platform and everything. Some are called Shudder Originals, but I'm not sure. Sure their involvement. I mean, that's a question I'm very interested in as well, because I work as a film producer as well, so I'm interested in knowing how Shudder, how they actually approach projects like that and what they actually take on. But I'm not sure. But I think they would be interested in sort of horror series, because series now. I think I'm seeing here over the last year, because we've been in lockdown most of the last year now. So I think people are more
it's already a year now. I haven't been to the theater since last year, bro. It's like I already forgot the sound of the good sound of theater stuff.
That's why I think,
because it's been shut down.
Yeah, exactly the same here. They're saying now maybe cinemas here will open in May, maybe June. So that's like another 4 or 5 months. But I think that's why more people are watching series now. They're getting, if you're sitting at home, it makes more sense to watch a series, and that's why I think as well, like some people I'm talking to, they think horror is a safer bet now for features, because you can make a horror maybe on lower budget. You don't maybe need as big a name star, everything. So if you get shut down, or if you can't go to cinema, have to only go online, is it easier to make money back with horror compared to some other genre if you have some big stars, special effects, everything? So it would be horror this year, hopefully.
So that's my situation, James. I mean, I think we need to, right now Indonesia is sort of shifting because the demand with the platform, they do have they wanted a lot of series, because people just staying at home, and their subscribers here now is actually increasing. So they're sort of shifting their business towards, okay, we sort of stopped first this year, maybe not so many film production, and concentrated on, making content for the platform. So yeah. So hopefully, maybe, because I think the one of the good thing with the platform is they do give us a little bit of freedom to actually, go crazy a bit, because it's sort of different way of seeing it in our rules of it has to be go to the censorship board and stuff like that. No, so here is a bit different. I think any content that going towards digital platform doesn't have to be go through the same as theatrical release stuff. Going to the censorship board and stuff. So hopefully, but we have to be careful so they don't mess it up, Sometimes if we go overboard and people sort of talking about it and they heard it and, they start messing around with the rules and stuff. It's like a double-edged thing, bro. So yeah, we got to still be careful, but we can go a little bit crazier than the theatrical ones, Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see. Hopefully this year we'll get back to some film festivals as well. Because that was a great...
Oh, yeah, man, definitely. I really miss it, man.
Yeah, me too. But that's where I think a lot of people... you have one audience now discovering, say, on Shudder, but you had like more sort of hardcore genre audience. We're definitely getting you guys films from festivals first, everything as well. So it was it's great to have that sort of gradual building up of a fan base and then the sort of more general internet audience and then online. So yeah, I really hope we'll get festivals back this year,
Hopefully, man, definitely.
Okay, I think my Zoom is going to run.
Okay,
it's to 40 minutes. So just
all right.
Thank you very much.
Right.
It was a very, very cool chat. Very interesting, man.
Thank you, pleasure.
And I'll see you again.
Pleasure to meet you.
Really love the Black Magic. Fantastic. So
thank you so much, James.
Look forward to everything else you do, man. All right, man.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Nice talking to you, James.
You too,
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Kimo Stamboel. Indonesian horror really does seem to be taking off now, and Indonesian folk horror really is becoming a bit of a thing. It's definitely on the radar.
I mean, we're always being told, like, there's the next sort of big thing or the next country and stuff. Especially for kind of the Asian film fans like us and stuff. It's always like every once in a while, like a new territory is being hailed as the next big thing. But Indonesian cinema in general, for quite a few years, people have been saying, talking about the quality of it and stuff. I mean, I guess partly, we had the raid films and everything, which kind of really, I don't like saying really put it on the map, but kickstarted that or something. That would be much better. But,
it is. I think what's quite interesting as well is that and Joko Anwar's Satan's Slaves really kicks it off, is looking back and really glorifying the heyday of late 70s, early 80s Indonesian horror.
Yes.
And weirdly kind of him, Kimo, and also Timo Tjahjanto as well, as the other Mo brother. Actually doing a lot of the same things as those directors were doing, where they were very influenced by the West as well as kind of picking up on Indonesian folklore, as well as the original The Queen of Black Magic. One of the other most famous films was Pengabdi Setan, which was originally called Satan's Slave.
Yeah.
And it is really, it's with that one you can see there's a real influence of Salem's Lot.
Yes.
Some of Lucio Fulci films that are going on at the same time as well.
Yeah.
But it's again, that one's probably a little bit of a slower burn.
It is. It's a very different. It's a very different, much more
than the Madcap.
Yes.
Queen of Black Magic.
I was surprised when I was watching the original Satan's Slave. How for some reason I thought it would be something similar to the original Queen of Black Magic, but it's not. It is more. It's both more kind of contemporary and also much more kind of like a supernatural creeper and everything like that. So it's a very, very different film, and just like the sort of Satanism stuff in it as well. Like Satan, I mean, that's probably a long debate to be had about the relative merits of Satanism and Gongta. Which one is more powerful? I don't know, but
see, what's interesting about, and this is true of both Satan's Slave and the Queen of Black Magic, is that they're very moral in the sense that in both versions of Satan's Slave, the part of the reason that this evil comes into the house is because they don't really follow God.
Yes,
they're not.
That's right.
They're not. They're not. They're not following Islam. They're in both films, and some of the other ones as well. I'm sure is that if you pray, that's your defense against the evil. So they've got the kind of very moral Muslim kind of conclusions.
Absolutely, I think that's something which is very interesting as well. Just because, I mean, that's to be honest, like I guess as horror fans, or even as like Asian film fans and stuff, you don't see much in the way of like not to call these like Islamic horror or anything, but it's not something you even really hear much about or anything. That we're so used to, whether it's The Exorcist, Catholicism, the cross, and everything like that. So it's very interesting to kind of see those slightly different religious elements in there and stuff, which is something I found very interesting in all of these films when it comes up as well. Whether it's kind of mixed in with the sort of more folklore beliefs, or some of the old legends and stuff, which Kimo was mentioned in the interview there. So I think that's a very interesting aspect of it as well for a lot of more jaded Western viewers and stuff, because these are not just like crazy wacky folklore being used for like madness and everything. You do genuinely feel there's kind of like a cultural underpinning to these films, which they are phenomenally successful domestically as well, and I guess that's like a large part of it. I mean,
the other interesting parallel between the original films in the 80s and the ones that are coming out now is that the reason that there was this boom around this time is because they suddenly the rappy films, the producers kind of suddenly realised that actually horror sells, and we can actually get this selling across Southeast Asia, in all sorts of territories, and they had some sort of mystical fantasy kind of films, some kind of wacky wuxia films with lots of other films with people's heads coming off and the back on and stuff like that. Obviously there were other horror films going on as well, sort of very dark and very violent films, even before The Raid came along, but it does seem to have become a very sellable thing, since Joko took on Satan's Slave and made it his own, and does seem to have, from some of the interviews I've heard, it really seems to have basically pestered rappy films until they finally gave in and let him have a go at it.
Well, I guess that's one of the other reasons like these films have kind of like taken off internationally in a way, because it's not like a sort of fake pitch which is going to be put together. Okay, let's try and appeal to Western audiences with some sort of wacky, exoticism or anything like that. These are made by, whether it's Joko, Kimo, Timo, sort of real fans of these things. Sort of based on this earlier very popular movement of film. So they're really, they're both very like old school and there's a sort of genuine desire to kind of reimagine these things for themselves as fans, for local audiences. It's not like a cheap cash-in type thing. And this, there's nothing in these films, these newer versions and stuff, which seems like it's been diluted or sort of been done this way to make them more accessible, everything like that. I mean, these are very much sort of proper old school black magic films, folklore films and stuff, which is why, I guess, or at least part of the reason why they've kind of found this kind of international audience. I mean, from festivals and stuff to, Shudder picking up. I mean, I'm never quite sure what it means when it says like a Shudder original, in the same way I'm not sure always what it means a Netflix original. But it's, you know, they're picking up a lot of these films
or an
now.
Amazon original, or
Amazon original, even less
or
so.
yeah.
Because
An Amazon original, but it's on Netflix for the rest of the world.
exactly, and it's probably been on other platforms before Amazon did it. No offense, Amazon, because I'm sure they're listening and stuff. But yeah, I think it is very interesting that we seeing so many of these films now, which are on Shudder. In particular, there.
Yeah.
Most of these films are on Shudder. Well, I mean, obviously, we said the 2 Queen of Black Magics are on there. The Satan Slaves, you know, the new version's on there. Joko's Impetigore, which I think is probably my favourite from these films. Then the May the Devil Take You and May the Devil Take You Too. You know, they're all on Shudder, and so it's great that they're kind of being put out there for this kind of wider audience and stuff, which people are obviously reacting to.
Should we talk about some of the other films that are out there? So you know, we do have. So I mean, there's a bit of an ironic, or maybe it's not an ironic thing about The Devil May Take You Too, in that the plot line of that, the sequel to The Devil That May Take You, is almost identical to the Queen of Black Magic, the new version.
It's not far.
I wonder how that was like. Oh, how did that happen? So I mean, personally, I'm not as big a fan of Timo's The Devil May Take You series. We can all kind of put up with characters behaving strangely and plots not really lining up in horror films. You know? That's one thing, but I think it goes too far, and you know, and the films themselves are just way longer than they need to be.
That's the nail on the head. They're just far too long. Both May the Devil Take You and The Devil Take You Too. There's no need for them to be like 1 hour 50, you know, to 2 hours, because there are quite long stretches where not very much happens. And you know, we've said like the pacing and the build up for Queen of Black Magic is very good.
And which is mirrored in Satan's Slaves, and it's mirrored in Impetigore as well. You know,
Definitely.
You know, which we can come back to in a second.
Yeah. But not in these two. I mean, and I think they're really, really frustrating films. I mean, because there's quite a lot of super cool horror moments in the Devil Take You films.
Yeah. I mean, the first one is very, very. I mean, I found it a bit too much of. I don't mind the references that are kind of thrown in when they're really. They're done in a really nice way, and they've got a really kind of a nice angle on it. But where Devil May Take You was way too much of an evil.
Yeah, it's close. Some parts of it are just too close to the bone.
With the really, really annoying part where the characters just decide to kind of fall asleep outside in the car, don't even try and go anywhere. The bridge is gone. They can't get out. They cannot escape. Here they just kind of go, oh look, it's dark again. Oh, now we're in trouble.
Let's have dinner.
The second one, Devil May Take You Two, is I think I got a lot more of Dawn, The Grudge going on in there. Lots of
definitely
downstairs, and lots of there were actually quite a few scenes were kind of pretty. There's a bit of phantasm going on in there, but it could have been done. It could have been done better.
Yeah,
it's some nice ideas, like sort of kind of the phantasm kind of throwaway thing, that kind of device they use. I mean, I say phantasm just because it's the way it's shot. There's one of those spinning, cutting discs that goes on, and it's done in the same. It is done in that sort of POV style of phantasm.
That's true. Yeah.
There's some really nice stuff where one of the characters, when they get taken over, they've got a knife and it's scratching. You know, Timo's very good at the sort of the fingernaily kind of stuff and just kind of chucking it in. It doesn't. It's almost like they're almost feel like wasted opportunities in these films, because he just doesn't do enough with them.
Completely.
It's got that kind of, because you're not really. I mean, as I say, the plot line for Devil May Take You Two is they basically go back to an orphanage where they've had some bad experiences.
It's true. Yeah, it's absolutely.
What happens? Bad things.
Big spoiler. Bad things happen.
But it does.
It's just a shame because
it just throws it away, because if you have the atmosphere kind of building up, then then you can think the plot line didn't, even the kind of the characters that come in from the original film are kind of brought in. I don't really quite. I didn't get why they were.
It doesn't serve it. It's a narrative purpose rather than actually adding a lot, and it's just. It
didn't seem to actually make any kind of sense at all. I mean, again, I'm okay with logic not being kind of aligned, but
this isn't in like a, dare I say, it's not in like a Fulcian way, where where the lack of logic is almost like you're living. It's like this is happening in like a different dimension where you just kind of accept this kind of weirdness, this sort of surrealness is happening. Whereas here, the weirdness just kind of comes like, we've had a great set piece, don't know what to do for 10 minutes. Okay, okay, something else cool happens, which is me hard. I like the Devil Take You films a bit more than you. I don't, I'm not loving them, but I'm trying to just remember the cool parts from them. But it's just such a shame that after the first one, and I've seen other write-ups and stuff and talked to other people, and most people would agree about May the Devil Take You having those problems, and then just to go and repeat them for the second film, because it's exactly the same problems in the two films, with that kind of pacing problem, the weird pointless stretches it just doesn't. It's just strange that they kind of repeat the same problems in them and everything like that.
And I seem to remember that the first one was done as a bit of a break from The Night Comes For Us. I seem to remember Timo saying that in an interview.
And Night Comes For Us which is a great film, but it's too long. But in that one, he doesn't have the same kind of breaks between all the sort of hyper violent machete action in that film. It's the pacing is off in Night Come, but it hangs together a lot more just because he doesn't really give you enough time to start thinking, wait, this is a bit pointless, these kind of parts and stuff. But it's a shame, because when the Devil Take You films are good, they're really good. They've got some excellent moments in them, but it's just.
And I do think he's a really, as I say, these ideas. He's actually a very, very talented director. All these guys are actually very, very talented.
He's obviously very into it,
but it just doesn't come across.
It's like needing a different editor or someone else to kind of like go through this stuff. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it's supposed to be a trilogy, the Devil Take You films and everything. So I imagine for the next one it'll be another retread, and it's probably going to be 2 hours long.
Well, I guess we'll just have to see what Joko Anwar's done the year before and see if it's another retread, because the first one was kind of a lot like Satan's Slay.
True. He might. We'll see what Joko decides on, but it won't be unwelcome, another May the Devil Take You film, because it's one of those things where I kind of fool myself into still thinking I'll just remember the cool parts, and then maybe 6 months later I'll think I'm going to do a double bill of those two films, and then halfway through I'll remember maybe it wasn't a great idea. So we'll see.
Yeah, but it kind of brings us on to Joko Anwar's last film, Impetigore.
Impetigore is probably my favourite of all of those kind of recent movements.
Yeah.
And the Indonesian entry for the Oscars. Not sure if it's made the shortlist. If I was, I'm sure one day we'll be recognised as Oscar voters ourselves, and I would be voting for Impetigore, because it is the most proper old school black magic Shaw Brothers style out of all of these.
Ya Bang, desa itu tuh desa terpencil, Mbak. Nggak ada apa-apa.
Gede banget rumahnya. Sini kok banyak banget ya, kuburan anak kecil.
And it's really nicely done.
Oh, it's lovely. Yeah,
it's that
it's
kind
beautiful.
of the pacing of it. The first half of it really doesn't drop much in the way of horror at all, and then it scales it way up.
Some rural unease and everything, but nothing.
I mean, it's a bit. The kind of. I mean, there are lots of different takes on the kind of rural unease, but it's got that kind of Wicker Man. Deserted village.
It's beautiful rural scenery for that stuff, like the proper. Overgrown kind of like jungle rural village type stuff, everything like that. But then at the same time, kind of like almost a bit of like sort of southern Louisiana Gothic kind of style to it, and everything like kind of ivy and creepers hanging out.
Deliverance.
Oh man, it's a great film. And then when you you know, it does.
And also, again, what he's very good at is not, and he does it again. You know, you've got these. You don't get the whole story. That's revealed at the end. You know, it has got that kind of kick to it as well. That it's not just.
Yes.
That there is a point to it. That it's kind of
still quite character driven. Which makes it. It does make it more shocking. I mean, it's shocking because as well it's very gory and stuff. Where he gets to it, you know, it's good and nasty and everything. But absolutely, when the sort of the different layers of the story, and again, sort of tying back to some sort of like past secrets and stuff, but they do a really good job kind of with the character building and stuff in there. So it's got a proper sense of like threat to it and everything, which makes it great. But it's just, I think visually, out of all these films, it's the most impressive as well. You know, most of the other ones.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Most of the other ones sort of generally take place inside like an interior and everything, which I guess partly comes back to, you know, this kind of Evil Dead kind of thing, like inside the cabin and stuff. But Impetigore has a lot more kind of outside scenes, which are really well done. So it's a fantastic film. Again, on Shudder as well. Like
I think, you know what, one thing I've noticed it is true of quite a few of these films as well, is there's a lot of fun in some of the early. You know, he really does, and he this is becoming a bit of, I don't know if who came up with some of these scenes, but you know that he does have a bit of fun quite early on with you're expecting something scary, it's not scary, you know? Which actually kind of comes from that, you know, it's actually done in the original Satan's Slave, that you have this idea of scary. No, it's the old guy with asthma who's just at the door. He's really picked up on that and kind of run with it a bit. You know, it's a little kind of tip of the hat to those films that he loves. You know, like Kimo, absolutely love the old school Indonesian and the old school kind of American horror films as much as everything else. But I mean, the other thing is that they are, you know, again back to sort of what was happening in the 70s and 80s, actually making this very Indonesian. It's really making it its own thing.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the things. You know, touching back to the interview, which Kimo was saying, like they are. It's not just because folklore is this kind of trend now and everything. It is this kind of cultural thing, whereas, you know, different parts of Indonesia and different parts of it, they have all these different like legends and folklore and stuff like that, which is, you know, naturally kind of provides you with a rich concepts for films, and that's what's good about seeing these kind of ones, whether it's Impetigore or Queen of Black Magic in particular, kind of modernizing those older stories and stuff. And, you know, not just going out there and sort of doing a sort of very easy sort of cash-in film based on like a folklore legend, but actually taking it and sort of working it into something which works for modern audiences as well. I think that's one of the reasons why they're so popular.
I think it was quite interesting about that as well. It actually kind of ties in with Joko Anwar's kind of other big projects at the moment, which is this new superhero cinema universe that he's working on. You know, the Bamalangat's cinematic universe, which has already got a phase 1, with Gundala. There's Sri Asis, which is going to be done by Kimo as well, and there's some other films that are coming out. You know, but it's that again is really kind of. It's taking the idea of superheroes and giving it a very Indonesian angle. Yeah,
absolutely. That's very cool, and I think that's one of the main things at the core of this is like, you know, not making films just because you think internationally it's going to tag into different stuff, but because you have to think about, even financially, you have to think about your domestic audience first, because that's where you're going to, you know, get your investment back and everything like that. And then if you can attract international audiences through something that's kind of, you know, well made, fun, but, you know, genuine as well, I think that's something which will speak to more people kind of overseas as well. So yeah, absolutely doing it with. I haven't seen Gundala yet myself, everything, but I think it's fantastic that this kind of like ambitious, you know, sort of project is going on where they can do this stuff.
It's interesting though as well, though, because Impetigore is partly Korean produced. It's CJ Entertainment, and I think some of the other films are as well. You know, so kind of this recognition that this is, you know,
I know absolutely
worth investing in is.
I mean that's. Without talking about my kind of production work stuff too much, I mean that's one of the things researching at the moment a lot is that where the sort of horror markets are, and you're looking at countries like you know, Korea, Japan, Thailand and stuff, and the market for other Asian horror films there is very it's a very very lucrative market for this stuff. So, it's kind of surprising slightly in a way that there aren't, other countries maybe so much which are tying into. I mean, it's not, obviously every country is going to have like a sort of different sort of folklore and culture and stuff. And we have been seeing some stuff from Korea, like, that Six Finger and stuff like that, which was on Netflix recently. But Indonesia certainly seems to have cornered the market and doing stuff which is kind of like explicitly folk horror. So, which is quite interesting because, obviously, like in the West, we especially if you go back to some great Hammer horrors and stuff like that, we've had a lot of these kind of like old school films and then remakes of them and stuff. But it doesn't. It seems Indonesia still seems to be the one sort of leading the way when it comes to different Asian countries in that, which is quite interesting. And I don't know. I mean, it would be an interesting thing to look into as well. Like, obviously, if we look back at other countries' horror films, whether it's like Hong Kong and stuff like that, they always treated like Indonesia, Thailand, and stuff as this kind of like mad exotic place where black magic kind of happened and everything like that. So it's whether or not that's still like a market and everything, and that's why certain countries lean maybe towards producing more of these kind of things because they have been sort of more profitable in the past around Asia and everything. So that would be an interesting thing to look into further.
Kesalahan yang harus aku hapus.
Both the original and remake of The Queen of Black Magic are available to stream on Shudder, along with Joko Anwar's version of Satan's Slave and Impetigore. The original Satan's Slave was released on US Blu-ray and DVD by Severin Films. So that's it for now. Don't forget you can find all of our previous episodes on Apple, Amazon Music, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe now and you'll never miss an episode. But for now,
cheers! Cheers!